In the next couple of years, solar will be as cheap or even cheaper than conventionally generated electricity in most US states. That's according to a new report by Deutsche Bank. Well, none of that is news to Dr. Stefan Heck, a renewable energy expert. He predicted all of this years ago. Earlier, I spoke to him and asked why he'd been so sure.
These are actually relatively predictable phenomena. So solar has been dropping in price since the 1970s. It went from $70 per kilowatt hour to where we are now, which is 5, 6, 7 cents, depending on how good your sunshine is. And that's a very predictable slope. Most people got surprised because they still thought of solar as very high price, which it was even as recently as 5 years ago. But it used to be extremely high price, and so utilities looked at it and said, well, it will never actually get into the realm of other competitive technologies. We'll pick between coal and gas and oil and fuel sources that are sort of all in the same ballpark. And what happened is solar just crashed that party, and we're seeing that all around the world. It depends, again, on how good your sunshine is and how cheap your coal is.
We're seeing oil prices dropping. Won't that disincentivize people to get involved in renewables?
Not really, because most of solar is really being used for electricity generation, and there are actually relatively few places in the world that burn oil to generate electricity. It's a very expensive way to generate electricity, given historically high oil prices. So there's really no competition directly, other than a few places. Hawaii is an example where they actually are burning oil for electricity generation, diesel fuel specifically. And so then they compete. But for the rest of the world, it's really competition between wind, coal, nuclear, and solar. And solar is very much winning that race because it has the fastest cost reduction, and it has a lot of other features that are very attractive in terms of the environmental footprint.
People often talk about not being very happy about having solar panels on their roofs and so on. The cost may be good or the price might be right. Is there a problem with the image?
So I think the image, there is a set of people that feel that having something black on your roof doesn't look pretty. It certainly wouldn't look good against red roof tiles that you can see on campus here. But in fact, people have gotten used to that. And now it actually has almost tipped in many places where it becomes a status symbol, a sign that you're modern, that you care about the environment. And so I think people will get used to that as it becomes more commonplace. The real issue for getting very large amounts of solar actually is not an image or brand issue, but is in terms of grid stability. Solar obviously is more variable because we don't generate solar power at night. So the grid will have to learn to deal with resources that are coming in by day and then phasing back out at night. We do know how to do that. Not every plant in the world runs 24/7. But the spikes that you have to deal with are a lot larger for solar, and utilities are now learning how to account for that and how to forecast for that. And so I think that will happen, but that is by far the largest challenge right now for further adoption.
Does all of this progress with renewables, with the price of solar coming down, make a global climate change agreement possible next year in Paris?
Well, I think it makes it more possible because if you look, now it's in countries' self-interest to actually adopt these technologies, because not only do they happen to be more environmentally friendly, but they're actually cheaper. So if you look at the roadmap, many countries are adding capacity. Historically, that's been predominantly coal. But if you look at what's going on in China even today, going forward, solar and nuclear are both gaining share, and both of those from a climate point of view are very beneficial. They have no CO2 emissions in the production, power production stage. And so it makes that climate agreement a lot more attractive because it now actually reduces cost and is good for the environment, and we don't have that dilemma that we used to have when solar was very expensive.